Steve Mills, you lead all of BCG's work on the public sector side, focusing on digital transformation, advising governments and international institutions on basically how to harness AI.
That's right.
So just to start with, I know that in so many different conversations on the topic of artificial intelligence, we're talking about striking the right balance between speed and innovation and being really playing offense, but also accountability, risk, oversight.
Yes.
So at the very, very highest level in the work that you do, how are you seeing governments in particular balance seemingly competing mandates?
What we're seeing is governments really focus on doing two things. One, driving efficiency and effectiveness in their decision making, and in the other, focus on building trust with citizens. And so let me use an example to illustrate what I mean there. One area we see governments deploying this tech a lot is in the budget process as a decision aid. So how do we more effectively make decisions linking our budget decisions to outcomes for citizens? And so there's a pure efficiency play here in that we can do the analysis much faster, but that also means we can do more analysis and make better decisions. So this is the efficiency and effectiveness angle. At the same time, if you can clearly articulate to citizens why you are making a set of investments to drive a set of outcomes for them, even if they disagree with the policy angle, but if there's that traceability and that explainability, it inherently builds trust with citizens. And so it's this duality of there's the real benefit from a value standpoint, but also from a citizen's trust. And so to get there, the focus has very much been on how do we use the technology to cut bureaucracy, and then how do we effectively upskill and enable our people, because they're the ones that understand the mission, they understand what citizens need, and can help us most effectively use the tech.
And on the upskilling front, what has the posture been by and large? Is it excitement? Is it concern?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question, because I think broadly everyone assumes employees are concerned, and to be clear, there is a degree of concern. But once people actually start to learn and use the tech, we're finding this fascinating relationship in that the more they use the tech, the more they report feeling productive in their job, happy in their job, like they make better decisions, like they're able to focus on higher value work. And there's this really fascinating correlation that the more they use the tech, the stronger these feelings are. So there's that initial bit of resistance you need to overcome, for sure. But once people actually embrace the tech, there's a very different perspective that emerges.
So you were sharing with a lot of your clients on the government side and in the public sector. You use a framework that you developed called BEST. What does that mean? And how are you seeing governments put that into action? Break it down.
Yeah, and the idea of BEST is it's getting to how do we deploy AI for value among governments. And so it's bureaucracy down, efficiency up, service levels up for our citizens, and trust up. So it's just where is the value? What is the value we're going to take from using AI? And really, the way we're seeing governments put that into action is to fundamentally reimagine what services can be. We need to rewire government with AI and digital at the core. It needs to be centered to our modernization strategies. So why do I say that? If we just deploy AI into legacy processes, there's value, of course, but it's incremental at best. It's when you step back and completely reimagine what the process could be or what services we could deliver now that we have this technology, that's where the massive value unlock happens. And some of the research we've done, we found only about 5% of organizations are getting the full value potential of AI. The thing that is common among all of them is this idea of reimagining the processes. About 80% of their effort is put into reimagining process, what we call reshape, and then thinking about all new services we can deliver, what we call invent. And so those are the plays that are going to really drive the most value for these organizations.
So just being very human, you are going to make going to the DMV for all of us a delightful experience.
Yeah. So
efficiency up.
Yes.
Trust up. Services up.
Yeah, so we talked about this earlier. I mean, I gave the one example of budget process, but maybe
because I'm behind on a real
I know. I'll highlight a few other places. So there's two other areas. I'll just highlight where we're seeing government use this tech a lot. So one is in service delivery, so digital services and self-service. So an example there is the DMV in the US, We saw one DMV that really took a digital-first approach to enable folks to get better access to services, better self-service. What we saw was 6% reduction in calls to the help desk. So there's obviously an efficiency play there.
Okay.
But really, it's 6% fewer citizens that are angry about the service levels they're receiving. So that, again, that goes back to this point of trust.
Right.
Yeah.
So maybe like a lot of the institutional distrust big contributing factor is poor services, poor efficiency. But
Yep.
So this all sounds great. We are going to have more trust, more transparency, more accountability, better service, everything that you just described. What are the risks? What are the blind spots? How are you approaching some of the potential pitfalls as well?
Yeah. This point of risk is so critical because as I said, there's this opportunity to build trust. But if we don't provide accountability and transparency and manage all these risks, you'll actually destroy trust. So it's value destroying rather than being value accretive. And this is where people come in. I mean, at the end of the day, our government workers, our civil servants, need to be accountable for the solution coming out of these systems. Now, that can't be that we simply look at them and say, review the output of the system and make sure it's right. How in the world is somebody supposed to look at an answer and really evaluate whether it's right or not? So there's two ways we have to approach that, and this gets to how are we really managing the risk. One is designing things in a human-centric way. We shouldn't just have our systems produce an answer. We should say, okay, given an answer, what is the evidence for, the evidence against, what's the supporting information we need? And we need to work with users to understand what information do you need to make that decision. The other piece is in the process itself. As we think about reimagining these processes, we need to step back and say, what are the decisions that humans should always make? What are the places where we want humans to review and approve and design the processes that way? And so there's this interplay between how we design the system and the process in which we embed it. And then the last piece is the people themselves. We need to make sure we're investing in upskilling our people around the technologies, around the systems we're building, so that they understand how it works, they understand the risks, they understand the limitations, and can then make informed decisions. Because it's really the interplay between the people and the technology that's the big value unlock here. No,
that makes a lot of sense. And one of the things that you shared with me in preparation for this conversation is just this idea that increasingly, citizens and individuals are expecting a similar level of service
Yep.
in the public sector as they expect from private tech companies, as they expect from all of your big platforms, delivery services. They're expecting an unbelievable amount of frictionlessness and those kinds of experiences. And obviously that requires adopting these kinds of capabilities
Yep.
at a scale that most governments and public sector institutions have not yet endeavored.
Yep.
How are you thinking about applying this at scale, but also are there any specific success stories that you really turn to when envisioning what the model could look like?
Yeah, I mean, this scale point is so important, and we talked about a few examples of where we're seeing this: the digital service delivery, the decision making. Maybe just to highlight one more. Anytime you have a back office process, where permitting, licensing, those types of processes, you can inject this technology.
Known for their speed.
Known for their speed, exactly. So we saw this with a European agency who used AI just for the compliance check. Is the application complete? Do we have all the supporting information we need? Do we have all the other documentation? Just that piece of the process went from 8 hours to 20 minutes. I mean, that is incredible. And so there's this real imperative from a value standpoint for governments to get there. And so this goes back to they need the resolve, they need it to be core of their modernization strategy, and they need to be focusing on upskilling their people to breed that adoption. I mean, that's how you're going to get scale, is really to pick where you're going to drive the value, drive it to scale, but along the way, make sure you're bringing your people along with it. Yeah,
of course. And on the people front, what do you see as some of the barriers that concern you? You talked kind of in depth here about that harmony that needs to exist between the people, the process, and then the platforms upon which they are operating.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about it, that sort of initial tension where people are a little worried, but once they start using the tech, the whole perception changes.
Okay.
The other issue is just making sure that you're investing in upskilling. People are reporting that they feel like they need 5 hours of hands-on training and learning to really effectively use the tech, and only a third report that they're getting that. And so this is an area where we really need to focus. We have partnered with OpenAI to help the government with this because we think it's so critical to get the value from this technology.
It's exciting stuff. I would say before we wrap, based on your role, everything that you've seen, the customers and projects that you've worked on, what would your message be to policymakers on this subject, and in particular around AI adoption at scale in service of citizens, but obviously ultimately keeping the risks in mind too? Like what would your advice be? What would your message be?
Yeah, maybe I'll just kind of wrap up, kind of hit on the points I made, which is we need to move as quickly as possible to cut the bureaucracy and drive more effective and efficient decision making, to upskill our people because they will be the real value unlock for us, and to do it in a way that maintains accountability and transparency to build trust. I mean, I've heard several other speakers. I'm equally bullish. I really do genuinely believe that if we move quickly on this, we're at an inflection point where we're going to unlock a whole new type of citizen services, a whole new experience with government for all of us, and incredible value governments will deliver to our citizens, around the world.
Steve Bills, thank you so much. We're all counting on you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.